The underground government, which had undergone digital management reform, unexpectedly exposed a loophole during its operation, causing a young man on Earth to inexplicably die before the end of his life. The local judge decided to compensate him for this, and as a result, a Saiyan named Ayaka was added to the Dragon Ball world. Due to the underworld's lack of emphasis on the fantasy world, Ayane, who possesses the ability to defy the heavens, began to emerge step by step in the world of the strong. What the underworld did not expect was that the fantasy world and the real world ended up on the same path. This is a story about the growth of a female Saiyan. QQ group number 663261111 keywords of the novel. Legend of Dragon Ball's Aya Leaf with no pop-ups, complete collection download of Dragon Ball's Aya Leaf Legend TXT, latest chapter reading of Dragon Ball's Aya Leaf Legend. Chapter 1. 3 Requirements. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Forestry woke up from a coma, his mind still dizzy, and found himself in a strange environment. There was a hazy aura emanating from the surroundings, and the sound of whips occasionally came from my ears. What's the situation? Did I run into a human trafficker? Forestry was surprised and quietly gathered around in large numbers. What caught my eye was a long dragon made up of soulful things that could not be seen at all. It was all ghosts. These ghosts are floating about 3 feet above the ground, moving slowly forward, with a ghost carrying a whip and a steel fork managing them on the side. Those ghosts are all ugly and ferocious in appearance. If they discover ghosts walking slowly or randomly cutting in line, they will whip them hard. Squeeze whatever you want, behave yourself to me. When you see the judge, you'll be reincarnated. A ghostly messenger shouted fiercely, aiming at a slightly slower walking ghost and whipping it down, instantly making the ghosts quiet. Forestry couldn't believe it and looked at all of this. He was also a member of the ghosts. Am I already dead? The deep environment gradually changed, and with the movement of footsteps, a row of solemn yet revealing buildings suddenly appeared in the field of vision. The huge city gate had 2 terrifying words on it. Defy. Is this the underworld? Forestry shook his head with a bitter smile, not expecting to report here at such a young age. How did he die? Is there any hidden illness on me that could lead to a sudden death? No. Although I often stay at home and lack exercise, my body has always been good. How could I say I'm dead? Forestry tried to recall, vaguely remembering last night when he stayed alone in the dormitory all night reading Dragon Ball comics to reminisce about the plot, and then somehow seemed to have fallen asleep. Forestry couldn't help but slow down as they recalled what had happened last night. Pa! A leather whip came down, interrupting Forestry's memories, and a burning pain hit. What do you think? You're just dawdling, hurry up. Ghost Chai shouted at Forestry. Forestry suppressed the pain and didn't shout out. He had to lower his head under the eaves. He knew that if he dared to confront him, the ghost wouldn't mind giving him a few more whips. Forestry walked slowly forward with the large army, passing through the city gate and finally entering the underworld. Soon after, a huge palace appeared from afar, which was the destination where the judges judged ghosts. On the front of the palace stands 100 gates that reach over 10 meters high, and the narrow ghost path is divided into more than 100 small paths ahead, each of which only allows 1 ghost to pass through. Those ghosts will be divided into over 100 teams and enter the gate, and then be judged by the judge. The workload of this judge is quite heavy. Forestry looked at the large number of ghosts in front of him, feeling a sense of emptiness in his heart. The saying goes, take it as it comes. At worst, it means breaking the jar and falling, all dead. He didn't do anything wrong in his previous life, and he still wants me to join the animal path. At this moment, a man wearing a white robe and a tall white hat walked towards the Forestry side. The man in white came to the side of the Forestry and looked up and down at it. Lord Bai Wuchang, the ghost on one side respectfully shouted. In the underworld, the hierarchy is very strict and cannot exceed half a step. The status of the White Clothes Impermanence is only ranked below the 10 halls of Yen Luo and a few judges, making it a highly influential entity in the entire underworld. That's him. Bai Yi Wuchang looked at the forestry industry and felt a little flustered. He then heard Bai Yi Wuchang say to the ghost messenger beside him, "Judge Lu of this ghost will have a special trial. I'll take him away first." With a big wave of his hand, he took the forestry into his palm and headed towards the main hall where the landing judge was located. Forestry felt a powerful force enveloping itself, unable to break free no matter how hard it resisted. When it came to its senses, it had already been taken into the judge's hall. Is he Forestry? Forestry saw a huge figure of Zhong Yang sitting on the workbench in the main hall, holding a black SE tablet in his hand. The bottom of the black SE tablet was also marked with the 3 big characters, Life and Death Book, which happened to be beautiful from Forestry's perspective. The Book of Life and Death. These 3 big characters really hurt Forestry's eyes. There are some pitfalls. Shouldn't a life and death book be a book? When did it turn into a tablet? This is a bit too advanced. Yes, Your Excellency Judge, replied Bai Yi Wuchang with a serious expression. Judge Lu continued to review the computer version of the life and death book in his hand, while Forestry nervously looked at Judge Lu, unsure of how he would judge himself. I have been an ordinary student for over a decade. Although I have made small mistakes constantly, I have never done anything big or bad. After graduating from high school, I didn't go to college either, so I stayed at home and became an otaku. I don't think I will be sentenced severely if I don't leave my home or leave my home. Forestry. Judge Lu put down the life and death book, and his voice sounded slightly majestic. Yes, I am. Forestry's heart trembled and he cautiously replied. Haha. Take it easy, don't be so nervous. Judge Lu showed a friendly smile, but Lin Lin's opinion in his heart was more like a professional smile. Suddenly, he exclaimed, "It's not good, there's a risk." Forestry, male, born in 1991, father XXX, mother. Judge Lu spoke in detail about the life of Forestry, even mentioning small things like skipping classes a few times in elementary school and stealing a few eggs from neighbors, which made Forestry break out in cold sweat. Fortunately, it's a computer version of the life and death book. Otherwise, with so many things recorded, each person would have enough. He passed away in 2010 at the age of 19. Forestry listened to Judge Lu's profile and felt that his life had been too ordinary. You have had an ordinary life without any strange things or doing anything wrong. You are an ordinary person, Judge Lu said. But your life is somewhat different from what was recorded in your original life and death book. Forestry looked at Judge Lu with confusion, waiting for him to explain. Judge Lu said, due to the rapid expansion of human numbers in modern times, the underworld has become unbearable. Judges and impermanents are severely understaffed, so automated management models and tools have been introduced to the underworld in the nearby universe. However, this is a new management model. You know, under the new model, the management of the underworld will inevitably leave some loopholes. Although this loophole is extremely small, and an error may be infinitely close to zero, it has occurred now. Judge Lu pointed to the life and death book and said, according to the original record on the life and death book, you will become an outstanding scientist, and you will receive great honor. There are many descendants and you will pass away at the age of 89. Due to a system error, you have undergone tremendous changes in your life. Now, on behalf of the prefecture, I will compensate you, and I can meet your 3 demands. A system error caused a change in one's life, and now the underworld wants to compensate oneself with 3 demands. Forestry was stunned by the sudden news, feeling like pie was falling from the sky. The ups and downs of life came so quickly. 3 requirements. Did you bring it up on your own? Is everything possible? Forestry asked incredulously. As long as it's within my capabilities, I can make any request. Forestry suddenly felt surrounded by immense joy, and the pie really fell down, waiting for him to pick it up. I was pondering in my heart what kind of request to make. Since it was too light to compensate for my own losses, Forestry suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind after a long thought. He remembered the comic he read last night. "Can I enter the world of Dragon Ball and become a Saiyan?" asked Forestry cautiously. "The world of Dragon Ball is a fantasy world. Can't it be? Of course, this is your first request to enter the world of Dragon Ball and become a Saiyan. Strictly speaking, this requirement implicitly includes two wishes. To enter the Dragon Ball world and to become a Saiyan. The second requirement is to have the perfect type of instant movement that can locate without sensing chi, like the guardian of the Eastern Realm King God, Jabbat. Forestry has put forward its second requirement. Okay, let's talk about the third requirement. Judge Lu readily responded. The third requirement is that I want to have an immortal body, one that is immortal and has the ability to recover quickly no matter how serious the injury is. Forestry gritted his teeth and secretly looked at Judge Lu, afraid he wouldn't agree. This requirement is even more stringent, which includes 3 hidden requirements. Eternal lifespan, immortal physique, and super strong recovery ability. Forestry officials are really afraid that Judge Lu will see it. Haha. You kid. Alright, I've agreed to the third request. Judge Lu laughed and agreed. Judge Lu tried countless ghosts, but he couldn't see through anything. He had already noticed Forestry's little bit of caution, but he didn't care. Did you really agree? Forestry couldn't believe it. He knew very well how perverted the third requirement was, and relying solely on the principle of immortality could cause chaos in the entire world. Eternal life is just immortality. Besides, it's just a fantasy world. Even if the whole world is destroyed by you, it won't cause any harm to the real world. We don't care about that. Judge Lu said nonchalantly, then condensed a large pale energy and threw it into the soul of Forestry. I will give you another discount so that you can always be young. After your reincarnation, these divine powers that remain deep in your soul will transform your body and meet your requirements. Forestry listened and his face was filled with a smile. With these 3 requirements, the Dragon Ball world is now at his disposal, and he can't wait to enter it. After so many years, you are the only one who dares to make these demands to me. I guarantee to make you very, very satisfied. Judge Lu smiled strangely at Bai Wu Chang, but unfortunately, Forestry was immersed in the fantasy of the future and did not notice. Judge Lu opened up a passage of reincarnation in the main hall. Bai Wu Chang nodded in understanding and pulled Forestry into the passage of reincarnation. Forestry felt a dizzy sensation in his brain and immediately lost consciousness. Chapter 2. Saiyan Ayaka. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Vegeta Star, Baby Incubation Room. This is a place with a very high level of technology, and the space inside is also very large. The entire room is lined with over 100 baby beds. Each baby crib is made of transparent material, and comfortable cotton material is placed on the bed. These cotton materials are synthesized using high-tech technology, allowing babies to have better sleep. Since King Vegeta led the Saiyan people to join Frieza, the technology of Vegeta has also been greatly developed. A green-skinned cosmologist with a duckbill-like mouth patrols the baby room, accompanied by several cosmologists who also have green duckbill, busy recording baby data. Petinius, combat power is only 4, lower-level warrior, it's really garbage. The leading cosmonaut looked at the energy detector next to the baby bed and said disdainfully to the cosmonauts around him. This is Rabia's daughter. Rabia is still very famous among lower-level warriors. I didn't expect her daughter to have such low combat power. It seems that lower-level warriors are lower-level warriors, and individual excellence does not mean that his descendants can also be outstanding like him. This little girl will definitely not have much success in the future. A cosmologist looked at the record and reported the detailed information of the baby pointed at by them in the crib. Tisk, it's actually a descendant of the Saiyan people of the female Xing. The Saiyan people are a fighting nation, and the female Xing herself is difficult to become a great weapon, not to mention being the daughter of a lower-level warrior. If she grows up beautiful, she may even find a strong man to marry. She has a backing, and if she is not beautiful and has no one to protect her, she will definitely be sent to the battlefield, and then she will be used as cannon fodder. The Saiyan people are becoming less and less promising. Children born this year have such low combat power that they will eventually be abandoned by King Frieza, agreed the cosmologist next to them. Except for King Vegeta, there are only a dozen or so Saiyan warriors with a combat power of over 10,000. It is said that they recently encountered their old rival, the Sphere Star, and it seems that they have suffered serious losses. Another cosmologist whispered to their heads. The son of King Vegeta was also born, and at the time of birth, he seemed to have over 600 combat power. As he grew up, he was likely to become one of the few strong Saiyan people, named Vegeta, after the planet by King Vegeta. Stop discussing here, quickly record all the data and hand it over to King Frieza, the leading cosmologist scolded his subordinates. As soon as they heard about King Frieza, they all became honest and quickly recorded the combat effectiveness data of these babies. King Frieza is an invincible existence, capable of destroying planets with just a wave of his hand. This power is beyond their understanding, and they cannot imagine anything comparable to King Frieza. That is truly the king of the universe, and whenever they mention King Frieza, their hearts are filled with awe. After these cosmic beings left the baby room, the baby girl named Patinus opened her eyes. Vegeta has just been born, so there are still 4 or 5 years left until Frieza destroys the planet Vegeta. This baby girl is the forestry who reincarnated into the world of Dragon Ball, but I didn't expect Judge Lu to reincarnate him into a woman. Damn it, you turned me into a woman. How can women get around in the Dragon Ball world? Thinking of the eerie smile on Judge Lu's face before his reincarnation, Forestry felt an itch in his heart. At that time, he didn't notice and didn't emphasize his desire to be reincarnated as a man. It was too presumptuous, and now it's too late to regret. Forestry has also considered using the power of Dragon Balls to transform itself back into a man, but its body has been transformed by the divine power of Judge Lu, and the power of the divine dragon should not be enough to change the uniqueness of its body. Damn it, is this all I have in my life? No matter how unwilling I am in my heart, it seems to be of no use to me. Thinking about it, Forestry feels a bit discouraged. Forget it, let's settle for it. I've only been born for a while now, and I'll think about this complicated matter in the future. Those cosmic people just said my name was Patinis, which was really unpleasant. I need to change it. Otherwise, I'll call myself Ayane in the future, and I'll still become the strongest warrior. Thinking of the disdainful attitude of the cosmonauts before, Forestry was filled with anger. In a blink of an eye, it has been over a month since Ayane was born on the planet Vegeta. During this time, Ayaka's father, a Saiyan named Rabaya, visited her once. But when I saw the detector data on the crib where she was lying, I was greatly disappointed and never came to see her again. In his heart, Ayane is probably a waste that even an ordinary low-level warrior would find difficult to reach in her lifetime. If it were a boy, perhaps he could unleash his potential through battles, but unfortunately, as a girl, she is destined to achieve little in the future. On the planet Vegeta, girls are not considered a key target for cultivation unless they are descendants of intermediate or advanced warriors. That is to say, if we follow the norm, Ayane will have no flower heads in her lifetime. During this month, Ayane gained the instant movement ability that Judge Lu had loaded into her soul. This ability is like one's own instinct, without the need for calmness and concentration. It only requires one thought to determine how to use it, which is countless times more advanced than Sun Wukong's later learning of instant movement. It is also much more flexible to use than the guardian of the king god of the realm, Jabit. During this month, Ayane has sneaked out to play. And another ability, eternal life and immortality, Ayaka has not yet been tested. If she wants to test it, she needs to hurt herself. Ayaka doesn't want to play with self-harm, but she thinks this ability must be very powerful. At night, the entire planet of Vegeta is filled with a festive atmosphere. The Saiyan prince, the son of King Vegeta, was born with a combat power of 600 and had already reached his full moon. Therefore, King Vegeta specially hosted a banquet in the palace. Those high-ranking and some well-known Saiyan warriors attended this banquet. Ayaka disdained such a banquet, but what about a 600 combat power? It's worth making such a big fuss about. True honor relies on strong strength to achieve, and the current Vegeta just has the hope of becoming a powerful warrior. What is there to celebrate? Okay, this is because Ayane is jealous. The full moon of Vegeta passed during a lively banquet, and the planet Vegeta regained its usual calmness. The soldiers began to go out one after another, carrying out tasks assigned by King Frieza. At the docking port of the spacecraft, individual spacecraft come and go, constantly lifting and landing. 100 or so cosmologists from afar walked over, each holding a baby. According to the tradition of the Saiyans, these babies were sent to different planets for exercise. The strength of the force required to travel to the planet is determined by the combat effectiveness of the baby. Although the Saiyan people revere combat and can even be said to be very cold-blooded, it is impossible to send Saiyan children to those dying planets. According to traditional military force classification, planets with the highest combat power below 1000 are classified as low-level planets, planets with the highest combat power between 1000.10000 are classified as intermediate planets, and planets with the highest combat power above 10,000 are classified as high-level planets. Only the most powerful warriors on the planet of Vegeta can surrender to higher planets with a combat power of over 10,000, while only 13 Saiyan people, including Vegeta King, have a combat power of over 10,000. Among them, King Vegeta's strongest form has a combat power of 100,000, and the most famous among these 13 people is undoubtedly Bardock, who comes from a low-level warrior background and is the father of future son Wukong. Through battles, he miraculously possesses nearly 60,000 combat power. Today, all the children born in this year will be sent to different planets, and Ayane is one of them. Due to Ayaka only detecting 4 combat power points when she was born and being a baby girl, she will be sent to the planet of Phyloko, which has extremely low combat power. Ayane widened her eyes as she watched as children were sent into the spacecraft capsule and then flew into space. As she was about to leave the planet of Vegeta and embark on her journey, Ayaka was very excited. Her dream was ahead, and as long as she left the planet of Vegeta, she would have her own space. She wanted to forge ahead and achieve her own path of strength. Ayane was gently placed into the cockpit by a cosmonaut, and the spacecraft had already set its destination on the planet Phyloko. Both the sleep mode and the Saiyan cultivation mode were activated. After the spaceship took off, looking at the gradually shrinking and distant star of Vegeta, Ayaka sighed in her heart. Who would have thought that such a beautiful planet would be destroyed under the energy sphere of Frieza in 4 years? Then Ayane closed her eyes and entered the training mode of the Saiyan people, waiting for the arrival of her destination. Chapter 3 Beast Planet. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the blink of an eye, Ayane's spacecraft had been flying in space for over 8 months. With a beep, the sound of a computer prompt rang from inside the spaceship. The target, Phyloko, is approaching and is expected to arrive on Phyloko in 1 solar day. Repetitive, the target, Phyloko, is approaching and is expected to arrive on Phyloko in 1 solar day. As the prompt sounded, the spaceship's sleep mode gradually closed, and Ayane woke up from her slumber. Are you coming? Ayaka thought to herself. Although Ayane was in a dormant state during her flight in space for over 8 months, the computer was constantly instilling Saiyan combat skills into her brain. Now Ayane's mind is filled with various combat methods, so she really wants to land on the planet of Philoko as soon as possible and practice the skills she has gained in her mind. Striving to calm herself down, Ayane closed her eyes and began to accept the final day of learning. The planet of Philoko is a relatively primitive beast planet, with 70% of the planet being oceans and nearly 30% being polar regions covered in ice and snow. Land only accounts for about 20% of the entire planet, and most of it is jungle with only a few plateaus and deserts. However, on this land, which is not very vast, there are various types of beasts and birds living. The planet of Philoko is a low-level planet, and the strongest species on it have combat power not exceeding 500. For Ayaka, it is already enough. Such a planet is suitable for Saiyan people like her to exercise. After all, Ayaka's combat power is still very low, so it is not necessary to go to a planet that is too advanced. On the contrary, it may lead to accidental death. Goo-goo. A strange cry came. In the jungle, a big bird spread its wings and flew up. Not far away, a leopard was eagerly anticipating a surprise attack on a deer drinking water by the river. Chee-chee, a huge sound of breaking through the sky was heard, and then a spherical object with a red light rapidly fell from high altitude. The animals below felt the movement coming from high altitude and quickly scattered in all directions, trying to leave the area as much as possible. Bang! There was a loud bang. The violent impact suddenly shook all directions, and then struck thick sand and stones. A shockwave spread from the impact point in all directions, and towering trees collapsed to one side under the action of the shockwave, uprooting the entire tree. Gradually, the smoke composed of sand and dust dissipated, and what appeared in front of me was an exposed sandstone that had become unrecognizable, with a diameter of about 40 meters and a depth of about 10 meters. In the middle, there was a huge impact crater. Ha! The door of the spaceship opened, and Ayane crawled out from inside, holding a single-framed energy detector in her hand. Press the switch of the energy detector, and a beep will sound in your ear, and a series of data will appear on the screen. The energy detector detected the highest combat power on this planet at around 467, which is over 1,300 kilometers away. It then displayed dozens of signal sources with combat power above 300. The combat power of this Fei Luo Kuxing is not very low either. Ayaka continued to test and discovered nearly 100 with combat power exceeding 200. You should know that the turtle immortal, known as the god of martial arts, only has a combat power of 139. Ayane tested her combat effectiveness with an energy detector. With a beep, a set of data appeared on the detector. 17, it's a bit higher than when she was born, and Ayane wasn't disappointed. Although her combat power is a bit lower now, with her special physique that is almost a bug, it's not difficult to become stronger. Let's start practicing. Ayane made up her mind and started training according to the training method she learned from the spaceship. Time passed day by day, and soon a month passed. A young figure in the jungle kept waving and punching at the big tree in front of him for practice, hitting the tree with a series of punches. A small palm hit the big tree, and the tree, which was over a meter thick, suddenly shook, and then large handfuls of leaves drifted down. Ayaka folded her palms, squatted heavily, and then kicked the tree diagonally. With a loud squeak, the tree fell to the ground. At the moment the tree fell, Ayaka jumped 5 meters behind and looked at the fallen tree with a smile on her face. With these days of practice, Ayane has been able to control her punching speed and strength well, and her combat power is slowly increasing, reaching 21 points. Next, Ayane plans to challenge those beasts with attacking abilities. Turning on the energy detector, Ayane began searching for the beast that matched her battle. She quickly identified the target and found a signal source with a combat power of 26 in the southwest direction. Since she had found the target, Ayaka didn't make any plans to stop and rushed over immediately. With a pop, Ayaka began to move instantly and disappeared into place. About 2 kilometers away from the previous location, Ayane's figure appeared on the trunk of a large tree. Looking around, she found that the area was surrounded by giant trees and the vegetation was very dense. A few rocky shelves rose on the ground not far away, and a large reptile resembling a dinosaur lay there, which was Ayane's target. The large lizard had a very keen sense of perception. At the moment Ayaka appeared, it spotted her, buzzing and running towards the direction of the big tree where Ayaka was located. In no time, it appeared in front of Ayaka. It was hard to imagine how agile a bulky and massive creature could be. Bang! The lizard collided with the trunk of a tree with its huge body, causing the tree to rupture and quickly break and fall. Ayane took the opportunity to dodge to the side of the dinosaur and forcefully kicked towards the ground. She clenched her fists and slammed heavily on the dinosaur's abdomen, causing the lizard to flip over and fall to the ground, lifting a thick layer of smoke and sand. The big lizard let out a painful cry and its tail suddenly swung towards Ayaka. Ayane was taken aback, and as she was about to be attacked by her tail, a teleportation disappeared before appearing on the back of the lizard's head. Look at the move. Ayane struck the head of the big lizard several times in a row. Woohong! Due to a heavy blow to the head, the big lizard roared angrily, opening its wide mouth to expose its sharp teeth and biting towards Ayane. The speed of that mouth was very fast, but Ayaka was already prepared and leaned slightly to one side, cleverly avoiding the big mouth. Then she landed on the ground with one foot and did a few somersaults before distancing herself from the big lizard by several tens of meters. Then, she made a swoop and kicked the big lizard's elbow. The big lizard shook its body and let out a few low howls before starting to counterattack. The sound of crackling echoed as the two continued to attack each other, and soon both sides were covered in scars. Ayane and the big lizard distanced themselves, wiped away the sweat and blood from their foreheads, and calmed down to carefully stare at their prey. The skin of this lizard is very thick, and ordinary attacks cannot cause any damage to it. I need to use my true skills, she thought to herself. Fortunately, she is a Saiyan. Although young, she has already demonstrated extraordinary agility and responsiveness, which is the characteristic of the fighting nation. Concentrate all your energy on your right index finger, which slowly emits a faint blue light. Sword pierces through the waves. Ayane let out a soft moan. A slender qigong wave came out of the index finger and flew towards the neck of the big lizard. This qigong wave gathered all of Ayane's energy, and without any obstruction, it pierced through the neck of the big lizard. The big lizard let out a painful roar, and blood kept flowing out from the wound on its neck. Its body pounced on the ground and quickly lost its life. Seeing the big lizard fall to the ground and die, Ayane collapsed weakly, panting heavily. The previous qigong wave had already exhausted her entire strength. This energy attack, called Sword Pass Wave, was created by Ayane after realizing the existence of qi and combining it with the moves of the Saiyan people. It is formed by aggregating the energy of the whole body, with a very strong power. However, with the pitiful amount of qi that Ayane currently has, after using this move, she will fall into a state of exhaustion throughout her body. Ayane lay on the ground slowly recovering her strength, and only when she fully recovered did she slowly get up from the ground. Seeing that the sky had become dim, Ayane brought firewood from around and started preparing dinner. She cut a few pieces of meat from the big lizard and grilled them on the campfire, but the taste was mediocre. After eating and drinking enough, Ayane jumped onto the big tree and lay down in the branches to rest. Chapter 4. Battle of Pterodactylodes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, as soon as it lit up, Ayaka jumped off the tree and started doing morning exercises. She kept jumping up, her body in mid-air, and then punched and kicked in the air. Ayane's movements were very fast, leaving behind remnants in mid-air from time to time. After practicing for about an hour, Ayane stopped and stood in place panting, her face turning slightly red from intense exercise. Wiping off the sweat from my face, I touched my stomach and found that it was already growling with hunger. So her petite figure rushed towards the depths of the forest. She no longer intended to eat yesterday's lizard meat, and now she needed to go deep into the forest to see if she could find some new food. In no time, he came back carrying a rabbit. Remove the rabbit's fur and dig out its internal organs, then set up a bonfire and start grilling. After enjoying a delicious breakfast, Ayane turned on her energy detector and began searching for the target she was going to attack today. She then followed the prompts on the energy detector and headed towards the target. That is a fierce beast with a combat power of 30. Phelocoxin. An inconspicuous planet in the universe with life. On an empty and uninhabited plateau, there are weathered and cracked rocks everywhere, covered in fine cracks. Not far away, a child who appears to be only 2 or 3 years old is facing a large pterosaur. The pterosaur had saliva hanging from its bloody mouth, seeming to regard its young children as its own delicacy. Pop pop pop. The pterosaur flapped its wings and pounced, but the child in front of it suddenly moved, and the sound of its palms slapping against the rough leather suddenly rang out. The battle kicked off, with countless qigong waves emitting blue light, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air, flying irregularly in all directions. The qigong waves collided with the ground and exploded, splashing thick sand and stones, leaving everything in chaos. That child is Ayaka. It has been almost a year since she arrived on the planet Philoco, and Ayaka is also 2 years old and almost 3 years old. But due to her mature soul and extremely unique physique, she doesn't look like a child in her 20s at all. During this year, Ayaka spent most of her time fighting against the beasts on the planet of Philoco. Frequent battles enriched Ayaka's combat experience and her strength rapidly improved. The combat skills originating from the Saiyan people in her mind have been integrated by her, and in so many battles, Ayaka often suffers serious injuries. However, due to her immortal body, as long as there is no death toll, she will not really die. And how to calculate that there is no death toll? Simply put, as long as there is still a cell present, she is not dead toll. And even if she is instantly reduced to ashes, she can regain her human form after a period of time, and this is the immortal body. In addition to her immortal body, she also gained amazing recovery ability from the judge, and every time she was injured, she would recover quickly. At the same time, the physique of the Saiyan has also greatly improved her strength. There were several times when Ayaka was seriously injured and on the brink of death, but she managed to escape with special abilities. The perfect instantaneous mobility plays a decisive role in determining Xing. In this frequent battle, Ayaka repeatedly broke through her limits, allowing herself to continuously grow and significantly improve her use of qi. Now, Ayaka has almost mastered the method by which Earthlings use qi to sense energy intensity. Ayane, who is just over 2 years old, now has a combat power of 145, which is higher than most children who have the title of Advanced Warrior. At this point, Ayaka was facing a pterosaur, which is a common species on the planet Philoco, but its strength cannot be underestimated, only slightly lower than Ayaka's. Ayane teleported to the sky above the pterosaur, and before the pterosaur could react, she sent several energy beams towards it. The energy beam accurately hit the back of the pterosaur, making a sound of components. Under the attack of the energy beam, the pterosaur's back became blurred with blood and flesh, emitting a smell of burnt meat. Ow! The pterosaur roared in pain, widened its angry eyes, stared fiercely at Ayaka, and then quickly charged towards her position. Good time. Ayaka let out a loud cry, ignoring the enormous body of the pterosaur, and flew into the air, taking a turn to attack the opponent. Bomb! A huge collision sound sounded. The bodies of Ayane and pterosaur were both ejected by the powerful impact force and flew towards the rear. Ayane flipped over a dozen somersaults in the air, spreading her hands to stabilize her figure in the air, eliminating the dizziness caused by the impact, and then began attacking the pterosaur. The crazed pterosaur shook its dizzy head and saw the small figure of Ayane daring to attack. It couldn't help but roar angrily, and its wings spread out 10 meters wide. The pterosaur flapped its wings vigorously as Ayane was about to attack, quickly twisting its body and aiming its claws at Ayane to launch a powerful attack. Not good. Ayaka didn't expect the pterosaur to move so quickly, but it was too late to stop. Suddenly, she was hit hard by the pterosaur's claws, and her body fell uncontrollably from mid-air in a straight line. With a loud bang, a large hole was smashed into the ground. Almost as soon as the impact sound came, Ayane's body flashed out of the pit, avoiding another attack from the pterosaur, and then jumped onto a towering stone pillar. At this moment, Ayaka looked a bit disheveled, with one arm hanging down and blood dripping continuously from her arm. Her hand was severely injured and her bone had already broken. The strike of the pterosaur's claws contained immense force, causing Ayane to feel numb all over her body now. Ignoring her injured arm, Ayane quickly dodged and avoided another series of attacks from the pterosaur. The mistake just now not only injured Ayane's arm, but also suppressed the battle rhythm by the pterosaur. This infuriated Ayane. Although her combat power was even higher than that of a pterosaur, she was unable to win for a long time. The lion and the rabbit also exerted all their strength. It seemed that she was still careless, and she sighed inwardly. This could not be the case in the future. Ayane lifted her spirits and looked at the pterosaur with a serious expression on her face. With a shout, she suddenly disappeared from her original position and quickly moved at an extremely fast speed, leaving dozens of illusory shadows around the pterosaur. Dang 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 dang, could only hear the sound of Ayane's feet stepping on the ground, but could not capture her position. The pterosaur flapped its wings and flew in mid-air, its two eyes constantly rotating to observe the position of Ayane. Good opportunity. Ayane whispered to herself, catching an opportunity and rushing towards the pterosaur. She accelerated her movement and in an instant came to the front of the pterosaur, lifting her leg and kicking it. The area where Ayane attacks is where the wings connect to the back, which can better cause damage to the pterosaur. With a bang, the wings of the pterosaur were kicked by Ayane, and the entire wing trembled in the air. Due to the attack on its wings, the pterosaur quickly fell from the air in pain, and unexpectedly lost its flying ability for a while. Lingye couldn't miss such an opportunity and teleported to the position below the pterosaur, throwing the energy ball with one hand. Boom! The energy ball exploded and emitted a large cloud of smoke. After the smoke dissipated, the bloodied body of the pterosaur was exposed, and Ayane knew she was not far from victory when she saw the miserable appearance of the pterosaur. At this point, more caution is needed to prevent the opponent's counterattack. Roar! The pterosaur roared wildly, and the huge roar shook the surrounding echoes, as if the earth was shaking. Ayane carefully observed the pterosaur, not giving it any chance to breathe. After making up her mind, she quickly moved again and launched a powerful attack on the pterosaur, causing it to crawl on the ground and scream angrily. At this moment, Ayane launched more than 850 heavy attacks on the pterosaur, and it was powerless to resist. The pterosaur roared angrily at Ayane, emitting a faint red glow throughout its body as its energy continued to rise. Not good. In her heart, Ayane quickly distanced herself from the pterosaur. Boom! A mushroom cloud rose in the sky, and its powerful destructive force generated a visible shockwave. The shockwave spread rapidly in all directions, and Ayane was swept in by the shockwave before she could avoid it. All the trees and rocks in the area where the shockwave reached were instantly destroyed. After a long time, the thick fog formed by sand, stones, and vegetation gradually dissipated, and visibility began to recover. Ayane's small body was buried in sand and dust, and now Ayane is covered in injuries. She was hit hard by the energy of the pterosaur's self-explosion, and her bones were severely deformed. Her injuries were much worse than those of the pterosaur just now. If it weren't for her immortal body, she would have already died. Ayane struggled to crawl out of the dust, panting heavily with a pale face. Chapter 5. Postwar Summary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ayane's injuries were very serious, with almost no intact skin all over her body, and she was constantly bleeding. Her bones were also broken by the explosion just now. She carefully moved her body, and the intense pain that immediately came from her body twisted her small face, making every move very difficult. Forcefully enduring the pain, she left the battlefield just now and arrived at a slightly flat open space. Ayane collapsed exhausted. I didn't expect it to become so miserable this time, Ayaka smiled bitterly as she felt her body condition. Her bones were broken in multiple places, especially one of her arms, which had completely deformed and had already been scrapped. My body is still too fragile, and my strength has not kept up with the growth of my strength. This will limit my ability to play during battles. If the body is stronger, it can withstand more powerful attacks. It's too exhausting to keep up with combat effectiveness in terms of intensity. We must strengthen our physical strength as soon as possible. Ayane lay on the open ground, pondering in her heart, but the top priority now was to quickly repair her injuries. Slowly mobilizing her body to recover a bit of energy, Ayane began to repair her injuries. Her body not only had the characteristic of immortality, but also had a rapid recovery ability. When she used her energy, the wounds on her body were healing at an astonishing speed, and the broken bones were reconnected. Pieces of old skin peeled off from her body, revealing fair and tender skin. After about an hour, the injuries throughout the body were completely repaired. Lingya stood up and twisted her neck left and right a few times before stretching her body again. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound from her whole body, like stir-fried beans, with an indescribable sense of comfort. Ayane greedily took a deep breath of the vitality in the air, feeling a sense of survival from death. She felt the abundant power emanating from her body, and the content of her chi increased again. After this narrow escape, Ayane's combat effectiveness has once again made a rapid progress. Combat Power 270. Ayane detected with an energy detector that her 270 combat power is already in the top 50 on the planet of Philoko. In less than 2 years' time, Sun Wukong will be born. When Sun Wukong was 16 years old and fought against the Bike Demon King, his combat power was only over 260 points, which means he has reached this level 18 years earlier than Sun Wukong. After so many battles, Ayaka has gained rich combat experience and has a keen insight into the judgment of the combat situation and the combat situation. Especially after this battle, she discovered her serious shortcomings. The important factors that determine the outcome of a battle include the judgment of the situation, the speed of the attack, the strength of the attack, the ability to resist and recover. The judgment of the situation needs to be cultivated through long-term battles, accumulating experience through non-stop battles, and there are no shortcuts. Attack speed and attack power can both be rapidly improved, as long as they use a perfect cultivation method, they can grow quickly. The cultivation method of the Saiyan people is very good, and Ayane already has this. Finally, there is the ability to resist and recover, and the ability to recover goes without saying much. Ayane has ample confidence, but her physical strength, which is also the ability to resist, troubles her. There are no effective methods in the experience of the Saiyan people. After the battle, Ayaka also discovered several problems. She knew she had a strong recovery ability, which far exceeded that of Sun Wukong and others. However, compared to Bike's rapid regeneration ability and the more abnormal Shalu and Buo who followed, it was still not enough. The rapid regeneration of Bike is achieved by consuming the body's chi to achieve regeneration, and Aya can also achieve regeneration, but it did not grow as quickly as Bike. However, the advantages are also obvious. Each time Ayane is broken and reborn, it is equivalent to walking from the edge of life and death. After recovery, her combat power and intensity will significantly increase. However, compared to the extent that Shalu and Buo can recover immediately with just one cell surviving, the difference is still too far. It only took an hour to repair the injury just now. Lingya thought that Judge Lu's body should not be like this. At least it has been transformed by divine power. Does the recovery ability of her body also need to be enhanced by strength? When her strength grows to a certain extent, she can also recover immediately with only one cell left. As long as there is one cell, it can immediately recover, which is equivalent to a simplified version of the undead body. The additional capabilities of Ayane are divided into two parts. Part of it is the special Xing that will never die. Take Sun Wukong as a comparison. When Sun Wukong is injured to a certain extent, he will die, but even if he is seriously injured, he will not die. However, he will still be seriously injured or even unable to move, unless the energy of the attack is very strong, so strong that he can destroy his body in an instant, but he will not die either. After his body disappears, he will soon be reborn, but the injury still needs to slowly recover. The other part is having strong recovery capabilities. This part of the ability needs to be enhanced by one's own strength until it reaches the point where as long as one cell exists, it can immediately recover to its optimal state. When these two parts reach their limits and are perfectly combined, it is the true immortal body. Ayane understands that her recovery ability needs to be gradually enhanced through strength, which means she needs to cultivate through combat and cannot break through immediately. Judgment ability, attack speed, attack power, resistance to attacks, and recovery ability. Judging ability and recovery ability rely on combat to grow. Attack speed and strength can be achieved by utilizing the cultivation experience of Saiyan people, and in the end, only resistance and attack ability remain. It seems that there is no way to cultivate this, can only passively increase it. Gravity chamber. Ayane quickly rejected it. The gravity chamber increases the weight on her body, which is used to cultivate speed and strength. Body strength is only an additional factor and does not significantly increase the body's strength. The gravity chamber Ayane will be used in the future, but not now. The disconnect between one's physical strength and physical strength is severe, but no matter how much strength is increased, the physical strength and physical strength do not match. This is not a problem for Ayane alone. Sun Wukong and others also have this problem, as their strength has increased but their physical strength is not enough. If Sun Wukong's physical strength could rival his powerful abilities, then whether it was in battles against Vegeta or Frieza, or even the artificial human Sheru behind him, he would not suffer such serious injuries. When Sun Wukong fights against Vegeta, he cannot make Vegeta unable to move. Although there is a difference in strength, his physical strength cannot be ignored. If Sun Wukong can withstand higher multiples of World King Fist, Vegeta will definitely not be an opponent. Wait. What did Ayane think of Vegeta? By the way, at that time, although Vegeta had higher combat power than Sun Wukong had already filled the gap in combat power by using the out-of-world King Fist, but still could not cause significant damage to Vegeta. Do Saiyan people have any good ways to enhance their physical strength? That's not right either. I am also a Saiyan, unlike Sun Wukong who suffered a heavy head injury and lost his memory when he was a child, forgetting the Saiyan combat skills. I have inherited the Saiyan skills without any problem. Artificial Moon. Ayane remembered that Vegeta had a skill called Artificial Moon, but she didn't know it herself. Did you miss it yourself, or was it because this move has not been developed yet, or is it only qualified for advanced warriors like Vegeta to learn? Anyway, Ayaka plans to return to the place where she landed on the planet Phi Loco, find the spaceship that brought her here, and see if she can make any discoveries. Chapter 6. Underwater Practice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a peaceful and tranquil jungle, the wind brushes the leaves, and the branches sway and make a squeaking sound. The sunlight shone through the tightly packed leaves, illuminating the ground with speckled highlights. The nearby animals lay down comfortably, enjoying a leisurely life. It's around here. Ayaka flew in the air, looking at the dense jungle, which was very similar and difficult to determine exactly where it was. With a snort, Ayaka flew higher to increase her field of view. There. Ayane saw an area without trees and accelerated her speed to fly over and quickly arrived at the top of that area. The huge impact crater is still there, with fine grass growing between the scattered sand and stones. In the middle of the impact crater, the spherical aircraft was half sunken inside, half open, and covered in moss. Ayane landed and came to the side of the aircraft, digging the entire aircraft out of the pit. With a beep, Ayane pressed the button on the aircraft, and the computer made a hissing sound, starting to automatically detect it. After the self-inspection of the aircraft was completed, Ayane took out the small cultivation chamber inside and crawled into it, then ordered the computer to search for information about body strengthening. Da-da-doo-doo. The computer searched for relevant information according to Ayaka's instructions, but the result disappointed Ayaka. The computer did not store any information about body strengthening, which means that if she wants to strengthen her body, she must explore it herself. Ayane walked out of the cultivation chamber in disappointment, her palm aimed at the chamber and emitted an energy wave. With a loud bang, the cultivation chamber was shattered, emitting thick black smoke, and then aimed at the aircraft to emit energy waves. Now this aircraft has no use for Ayane at all, there is no need to stay, it must be destroyed as soon as possible. Looking at the destroyed spaceship, Ayaka felt very depressed in her heart. It seemed like she had a long way to go to enhance her physical strength. At the same time, on the distant planet of Vegeta. Report, the signal from spacecraft number 89 has disappeared. A report by the astronauts who specialize in monitoring the condition of spacecraft. Spaceship 89, searched the database for information on the crew, said a cosmonaut with a calm expression, who appeared to be in charge. He then waited quietly for the results to be reported. The disappearance of spaceship signals often occurs, which is not uncommon. As a member of the Flemish Legion, there are several battlefields in the area where we fight every day, and sometimes hundreds of spaceships lose contact in a single day. Most of these spacecraft that have lost contact have turned into cosmic dust, also known as combat downsizing. The difference is that they are not responsible for the organized combat spaceship, but for the spaceship of the Saiyan newborn. The signal of one of the spaceships disappears, indicating that a Saiyan child has lost contact. This was supposed to be a big deal, but because the astronauts responsible for regulating these spacecraft were not Saiyan, they reacted coldly to it. According to the report, spacecraft 89 is carrying a female Xing Saiyan named Petinius, with file number X112316, who is a descendant of a lower-level warrior and is scheduled to target the planet Philoco. It has been determined that spacecraft 89 has lost its ability to return, and it is recommended to remove it from the sequence. The person in charge nodded and said, "That's the one belonging to Rabia's daughter. It seems that the little one has already died. Please delete her information from the computer. Unfortunately, a spaceship that can function well. Notify the logistics department that the loss of the spaceship will be deducted from Rabia's reward." I can't blame these cosmonauts for being so reckless, mainly because the Saiyan children have received computer training and will not leave the vicinity of the spacecraft until they are strong. This spaceship is made of special materials, and ordinary impacts cannot cause any damage to it. If it can cause damage to the spaceship, it is definitely not something that an ordinary Saiyan child can deal with. That little guy is likely dead. These cosmonauts are not good people, and they came here because of the orders of King Frieza. They don't care about the life or death of one or two Saiyan people, and even if they were alive without the spaceship, they wouldn't be able to come back. The actions of these cosmic beings perfectly align with Ayane's wishes. Without documentation, she won't be remembered by others and can save her a lot of trouble. Cosmos would never have imagined that Ayane had complete memories of her past life and could become so powerful in just over a year. Ayaka flew gloomily, passing through one forest after another. Some weak beasts saw her and hid far away. When they encountered someone stronger than her, Ayaka had no intention of fighting and took a detour. Flying all the way to the seaside, looking at the vast and boundless ocean, Ayaka's mood surprisingly improved a lot. Puff. A few giant whales in the distance hummed and sprayed high water columns, which splashed into the air and fell into the water with a clatter. 70% of the planet Philoco is an ocean, where a large number of organisms live. The sea. By the way, Ayane clapped her palm and thought of ways to increase her physical strength. Utilize the pressure of the ocean to constantly strengthen the body, and then gradually enhance the body according to the depth of diving. The pressure of seawater will continuously increase according to the depth of diving, and every part of the body can be subjected to the pressure of seawater, with almost no omissions. The more Ayane thought about it, the more she felt that this method was feasible. She remembered the legendary body refining methods in her past life, such as the golden bell mask, iron cloth shirt, and iron sand palm. These all rely on external forces to constantly strengthen the body, but after all, it is only a partial strengthening. How can the pressure of the sea be comprehensive? Thinking about Ayane, she quickly descended from the air and plunged into the sea. 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters. As the diving depth continued to increase, Ayane gradually felt the pressure of the seawater. Especially in the later stages, the pressure of seawater almost doubled for every 1 meter of diving. Of course, this was not the case in reality, but because the endurance was almost reaching its limit. Finally, when diving to 340 meters, Ayaka felt that she could no longer go down, and she found that her bones were being squeezed by the seawater, making a creaking sound. The lack of oxygen in her brain made her feel dizzy, and she couldn't even dive another meter. Ayane's head poked out of the sea, took a deep breath, and then dived into the sea again. She reached 340 meters again and couldn't dive anymore. She gritted her teeth and plunged down, diving hard for another 10 meters. With a click sound, Ayane's bones were crushed by the pressure of seawater, her lower body became blurry with blood, and blood oozed from her nose and ears. After teleporting to land, Ayaka lay on the ground panting heavily, fresh oxygen entering her body making her brain much clearer, and then greedily exhaled the air. I'm too impatient. After Ayane recovered, she smiled bitterly. Fortunately, the physique of the Saiyan people is very special. Although all the pressure just now applied to ***, in fact, a large part was directly borne by the bones, which effectively alleviated the fatal defect of sudden expansion of compressed gas in the blood caused by the sudden disappearance of pressure. It can be considered fortunate. The use of the pressure of the ocean to force one's body to become stronger is very obvious, but the cost paid is also very high, and one can accidentally bury the ocean. Just the first time, Ayane paid a heavy price, with her lower body shattered and her head and internal organs severely damaged. Fortunately, she moved instantly and teleported to land when she couldn't hold on, otherwise she would have died once. It seems that we need to take it step by step. Let's adapt to the 300-meter deep sea first. When her body fully recovered, Ayane dived into the sea again. This time, she was very careful and stopped when she reached a depth of 300 meters. At this depth, she had already felt the immense pressure of the seawater, her muscles being squeezed inward by the pressure, her chest feeling stuffy, and her internal organs being squeezed. Ayane tries her best to keep herself calm, slow down her metabolism, and allow herself to stay in the deep sea for a longer period of time. After diving repeatedly, Ayane adapted to a depth of 300 meters and no longer felt any discomfort. She clearly felt that her body had become much stronger, and now she needs to challenge deeper areas. With some cultivation, Ayane descended to 350 meters, which was where she suffered a heavy blow before. Diving to this depth again still made her feel very uncomfortable. Her skin was pressing inward, causing pressure on her internal organs. Her bones were creaking all over her body, and her ears were experiencing intense pain due to the strong pressure. After a brief pause at this position, Ayane teleported to the land and rested for a moment before diving again to a depth of 350 meters. After countless experiments, Ayane gradually adapted to 350 meters and then continued to dive downwards. In the blink of an eye, another year has passed, and Ayane is over 3 years old. By this time, she has been able to dive to 500 meters. At the age of 3, Ayane has grown taller and looks like she is 5 or 6 years old, no longer so small. Chapter 7. Butterfly Transformation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At night, Ayane sat facing the sea by the campfire, where a large fish was grilling with a tree trunk. The fish was over 2 meters long and over 1 meter wide, emitting a fragrant aroma. The fish was her dinner. After such a long period of exercise, Ayane's body has been strengthened a lot. The Saiyan's physique, combined with her super strong recovery ability, allows her to carry out various extreme challenges without any worries. Even now, she can feel her strength increasing every time she punches. For her body is currently in a period of vigorous growth, and the combat value base is relatively small, so the progress is quite significant. Thanks to the assistance of sea pressure, Ayane's use of chi has reached a subtle level. Now she can control every breath of chi in her body. If she converges all her chi, she looks just an ordinary little girl. No one would have thought that such a young child has strong combat power. Since diving to 500 meters, the difficulty has increased dramatically for every 1 meter, and the requirements for physical strength have become more stringent. Ayane has set her physical strength to 5 levels, 1 level every 500 meters. She has only just started her second level of cultivation. After dinner, Ayane lay on the bed, watching the shining stars in the night sky, feeling that the sky was really beautiful, and then fell asleep in a daze. 2007, 2008, 2009. Ayane did 3,000 push-ups and then started running again. These are all compulsory courses for her every day. Generally speaking, simple exercise is quite boring and lacks necessary entertainment activities. She almost crazily trains herself, why bother? But the Saiyan bloodline made her enjoy this tedious exercise, which was probably a benefit she gained after coming to the Dragon Ball world. She is glad that she has chosen the Saiyan bloodline. If it were the Shinga from her past life, without extraordinary perseverance, who knows if she still has a chance to stand out in this life. After exercising my muscles and bones, I jumped into the sea and continued diving until I reached the bottom of 500 meters. As I continued diving, the pressure around me increased in vain, and my chest began to feel a bit dull. 550 meters, 560 meters. Ayane continued to dive, using air to protect her vital parts and resist the pressure of seawater. Rubbing and rubbing, my muscles were trembling uncontrollably, and a feeling of soreness came over. Slowly, the soreness disappeared, replaced by intense pain. Ayane stopped and remained motionless in that position. She had encountered this situation countless times, indicating that she had reached the limit she could bear and could no longer dive. The excruciating pain is still spreading, and at the same time, one's own recovery ability is also starting to take effect. A special energy secreted from each cell is gradually repairing the damaged cells. Cells constantly break under high pressure, and then new cells are immediately born to replace the cells that were just destroyed. Over and over again, the cells throughout the body will be replaced and transformed, and the newly grown cells will far exceed their original strength and vitality, which is the uniqueness of the Saiyan people. The number of cell divisions is generally limited, and once a certain number of divisions are reached, they cannot continue to divide, which is also the main reason for the lifespan limitation of organisms. However, Ayane was completely indifferent. She was like a nouveau riche, extravagantly squandering her already almost infinite potential for life. Ayane felt a muffled sound coming from her body, and her whole body relaxed, as the pressure of the seawater seemed to have decreased significantly. My body has become stronger again. My heart secretly rejoiced, and now my physical strength has become very strong. Ayane returned to the land, and indeed her fair skin looked even more crystal clear, as if it would burst with a single shot, but the actual intensity was far beyond imagination. After resting for a moment, I continued to exercise and then flew deep into the continent to search for new prey. Physical strength is an aid that can help oneself better exert combat effectiveness, but its own combat effectiveness is also crucial. Since the body keeps up, it is necessary to strengthen one's own combat effectiveness even more. Ayane has found a new prey, a black panther with a combat power of around 300. Ayane launched a fierce attack on the black panther, and countless qigong waves rushed towards her. The black panther lost its defense and was hit by a qigong wave, making a loud roar. The thick smoke blocked her view, making it impossible for Ayaka to see the condition of the black panther. With a whoosh, the black panther reacted and launched an attack on Ayane, charging towards her with a sharp claw. Ayane was well prepared and reached out to grab the paw of the black panther, throwing it towards the distant rocks. The black panther made a loud roar when it hit the rock, which was shattered, and the panther disappeared from sight at the moment of impact. Ayane's face solemnly observed the surroundings, and her ears listened to any sound from the listener. Here. A heavy blow hit the air. Bang! The black panther's head was hit straight, and its entire body flew out in a straight line. Ayane couldn't miss this opportunity. Her body quickly disappeared into place and appeared on the trajectory of the black panther's flight, then clenched her fists and slammed down with force. The black panther was dizzy and disoriented by a series of fierce attacks. As soon as she calmed down, Ayane's attack arrived again. Nearly 100 energy cannons flew down from high altitude and accurately hit the target. Ayaka launched another attack, engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the black panther, showcasing her physical advantage. Often, the black panther's attacks would not have a significant impact on Ayaka's body, but her attacks could cause severe injuries to the black panther. A series of crackling attacks, the surrounding environment was bombarded by powerful energy and had become unrecognizable, with potholes and marks everywhere. Both have very fast movement speeds that cannot be seen with the naked eye. With a loud bang. Another fierce impact, Ayane flipped several somersaults and Black Panther pulled out a distance of nearly 100 meters. Then with a whoosh sound, he attacked. The place where I originally stood sank half a meter in vain due to the strong impact force, and the earth was covered with broken and cracked gullies. Woo! The Black Panther let out a mournful cry, her entire body pierced by Ayane's punch, and then a huge explosion occurred. In this battle, Ayane has won completely. This is the benefit of physical strength, where the opponent's attack cannot cause substantial harm to oneself, while oneself can bring a painful price to the other party. The combat effectiveness of the Black Panther is actually on par with Ayane, but its physical strength is far inferior, which is why this outcome happened. Chapter 8. The Fall of a Spaceship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although I don't plan to go to Earth immediately, it's time to leave the planet of Philoco. Staying here won't help me much, so it's better to go to other planets to see. Ayaka's home is located on a mountain peak with a cave on it. It used to be the nest of a brown bear, but since Ayaka arrived, she has occupied it. After simply tidying up her things, Ayane activated an instant movement and left the planet of Philoco, where she had lived for 5 years. On a planet very far away from the planet of Philoco, Ayane's figure appeared on it. Her instant mobility has a clear advantage, which is that she can see the overview of her destination before teleportation, so as not to teleport into space or even into stars by mistake. The teleportation distance is closely related to her ability. In the world of Dragon Ball, there seems to be no clear distinction between different planets, giving the impression that the gravity and gas composition of each planet are not significantly different. In fact, due to differences in the volume and mass of planets, there are often planets in the universe that are countless times larger than Earth, and their gravity is also vastly different from Earth's. Adding to the differences in gas composition, there are very few planets that are truly suitable for human activities on Earth. Of course, it is difficult for us to measure those strong individuals with common sense. Ayane only chose a planet suitable for life to survive on this teleportation, without specifying a specific destination. When she arrived on this planet, she realized that there was no civilization, and there was no other visible life on it except for strange plants like cacti. The air is still filled with a pungent smell like sulfur, which smells very uncomfortable. Just as Ayane was about to launch an instant movement and leave, a bright fireball in the sky, something fell down. With a loud bang, the fireball collided with the ground and made a huge explosion. The sky was filled with sand and dust, and a thick smoke filled the air. With Ayane's eyesight, she quickly discovered that it was a spaceship. It's really a coincidence. Ayane smiled and flew towards the place where the spaceship had crashed, only to land when she was planning to leave. That was a disc-shaped spacecraft with a diameter of about 150 meters. It was a small and medium-sized spacecraft, and at that time, black smoke was emitting inside the spacecraft. It was obviously scrapped. Ayane landed near the spacecraft and began to look around. Ha! The hatch of the spaceship opened, and a man emerged from inside. He was 30 years old, wearing a beige SE leather jacket all over his body, with a single shoulder animal-made fur draped over his upper body. His neck and wrists were covered in fluffy cotton cloth. Where have you seen such a stylish look before? Ayane paused for a moment, and a vague shadow flashed through her mind, as if she had some impression. I always feel like I've seen this man's style somewhere before, but I can't remember it for a moment. By the way, this is the attire of the Yadrat people. With a palm clap, Ayaka finally remembered that this was the traditional attire of the Yadrat people. Perhaps many people may not know about the planet Adelaide, but when it comes to the clothes that Sun Wukong wore when he returned to Earth after defeating Frieza on Namek, many people have an impression. It's this Yadrat star. That is a planet full of various magical secrets, and Sun Wukong's instantaneous movement was learned from there. The man from Yadrat also saw Ayane and was surprised to see humans on this desolate planet. Well, may I ask if you're from Yadrat? A polite voice rang out, but after asking, Ayaka was stunned. She spoke the language of the Saiyan people, how could Yadrat people understand it? My name is Podia and I am from the planet Yadrat. Little girl, are you? The man replied in reverse when he heard Ayaka's question, and only then did he react when he saw her tail behind her. So, little girl, you're a Saiyan. Ever since the destruction of the Saiyan planet, I thought I wouldn't be able to see the Saiyan again. The Saiyan people are very famous in the universe, and the reason for their fame is because they are competitive and not very well known. Although they are powerful, they often leave the impression of remaining at the level of barbarism, without the humility and elegance of a strong individual, let alone the ethnic attraction of moistening the rain silently. Especially after following King Frieza, the Saiyans became one of the several major battle teams on the front line of the Frieza Legion. For this, he carried a lot of blame for Frieza. Of course, the mother planet of the Saiyan people, Vegeta, turned into a powder in the universe, and all Saiyan people were instantly expelled from the cosmic race, which also brought a considerable shock to the entire universe. Such a powerful fighting nation suddenly disappeared. The destruction of the home planet, coupled with a large number of Saiyans gathering on it, can be said that only a very small number of Saiyans survived this natural disaster. In the universe, there are people who love peace, and there are also people who enjoy fighting. Those peace-loving ethnic groups are naturally delighted to hear that the Saiyan people have suffered a natural disaster, but those who enjoy fighting believe that the disappearance of the Saiyan people is a significant loss. The death of a rabbit and the sorrow of a fox, causing harm to its kind, and the disappearance of a strong nation, make people deeply saddened. The man's answer stunned Ayaka, as he actually understood the language of the Saiyan people. Podia saw Ayane staying there without saying a word for some reason, thinking it was because the other party had lost consciousness when they heard that their home planet had been destroyed. Little girl. Podia looked at Ayane with concern. Why can you understand what I'm saying? Ayaka reflected and asked in confusion. This is a secret technique of our planet Adelaide, which allows us to immediately replicate the language system of the other person upon hearing their words, explained Podia. So magical. Ayane's eyes showed a longing gaze. This kind of secret technique must be learned. Can Uncle teach me? It's possible, it's not a big secret, but it's difficult for us to learn the secrets of the planet Adel 8, especially in the current environment. Bodia looked at the surroundings, shrugged and asked Ayane to stay aside, then walked into the spaceship and rummaged through it to see what was useful. Alas, unfortunately, everything is broken. Linye saw that Bodia had been searching for a long time but couldn't find anything intact, and asked, "Uncle, what are you looking for?" "I'm looking for something to repair the spaceship, but unfortunately none of it can be used anymore." Bodia stopped helplessly, realizing that without tools, the spaceship could not have been repaired. The pungent smell in the air made him feel very uncomfortable. "Little girl, what's your name? Why are you alone on this planet?" "My name is Ayane and I have always lived alone." Bodia has also dealt with other Saiyan people and knows that they will send their children to other planets for exercise. So it's natural to think that Ayane is also one of those children who were sent out. "So, you Saiyan people are too aggressive. They were sent out at a young age. What about the aircraft that brought you here?" He thought of the aircraft that brought Ayane. "It was destroyed," Ayane said truthfully. Her words disappointed Bodia, and if the spaceship was destroyed, she couldn't leave. This planet is a barren planet with no food on it except for cactus-like plants, making it impossible for humans to survive on it. Ayane felt very amused when she saw Bodia sitting on the ground without any energy, and secretly took out an energy detector to test him. The Bobo detector made two soft sounds. 1785 Bodia's combat power is not low, more than 900 higher than her. No wonder she dares to wander alone in the universe. "Ah, Uncle Bodia." Ayane discussed and said to Bodia, "If I take Uncle you away from this planet, you must teach me the secret to learning languages." "Okay, if you can leave here, I'll teach you everything." Bodia responded casually and then reacted, "Wait, what do you say? You say you can leave here?" "Of course. What about the spacecraft? Didn't it mean it had already been destroyed? Is there another spacecraft?" "No." Bodia was speechless. Children are just children. How can they leave this planet without a flying machine? He naturally regarded Ayane as a little girl who speaks without thinking. Seeing that Bodia didn't believe in herself, Ayaka became unhappy and said, "Uncle, isn't there a trick called instant movement in your adlate?" Bodia naturally knows how to move instantly, but it requires the use of air to sense it. He doesn't know how to do it. Even on the planet of Yadrat, there are very few people who can move instantly. Not to mention the distance between life planets. Ayane extended two fingers and placed them between her forehead to make a momentary movement. In fact, her momentary movement did not require any tricks, and could be activated directly with her mind. "I can move instantly." Seeing that Bodia didn't believe her words, Ayane's face showed dissatisfaction. Shio's instant movement disappeared from before appearing 50 meters away in front of Bodia. Bodia appeared very surprised, opening her mouth wide in disbelief. This little girl really knows how to move instantly, but how did she learn it? Without a strong aura, she wouldn't be able to use it. He could see that Ayane was indeed using instant movement, not high-speed movement. He couldn't even move in an instant, but the little girl in front of him used it. This was really a sight to behold. It's like how absurd it is to see a neighbor's child who has already mastered the secret technique of passing down their family's lineage, even though they haven't learned it yet. "How about, can you teach me the secret technique?" She smiled smugly, as Ayane was not tall enough and could only pat Bodia's knee. Bodia nodded dully, clearly not having regained consciousness. Chapter 9. Arriving at the Star of Yadrat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ayane grabbed one of Bodia's feet and closed her eyes to search for the location of the planet Yadrat. Fortunately, the planet Adel 8 is not too far from here. Found. The image of a life planet comes to mind, which is the homeland of Bodia. The planet Adele 8. Then she activated an instant movement, and Ayane and Podia disappeared from their original position. Yadrat is located in the eastern region of the northern Milky Way, with countless magical secrets that people dream of. The Yadrat people are a peaceful people who are hospitable and dislike combat, but they have also developed countless magical tricks. Although individuals have extremely high combat effectiveness, they never take the initiative to invade others, and the relatively peaceful area near the planet Yadrat in the eastern part of the northern Milky Way is thanks to their efforts. In this area, the Adelites are like big brothers, loved by the weak cosmopolitans nearby due to their pure appearance. Ayaka was warmly welcomed by them when she arrived at the star of Yadrat, especially after learning that Ayaka had brought back Podia. She became even more friendly to her. Now she lives with Uncle Podia's sister. The houses of the Yadrat people are built on stone pillars, with spherical buildings built on top of pillars that reach tens of meters high, resembling a giant lollipop from a distance. Ayaka was wearing the Adlate star costume prepared for her by her uncle and sister, and as soon as she walked out, she met the neighboring Aunt Buniti. The Adlate star people generally have strong combat power, and even the peasant woman Aunt Buniti has a combat power of over 500. So when she first arrived at the planet Yadrat, seeing so many powerful figures swaying in front of her, Ayane was really startled. No wonder the Yadrat people can sit in the position of the big brother in the nearby area, and their strength is really not impressive. Hi. Where is Xiaolingi going? Aunt Buniti greeted warmly. I'll go find Uncle Podia. Podia is right over there at the mine. Pointed to the location of a hill to the east. Ayane nodded, smiled and expressed gratitude to Buniti, then went to find Podia, who still owed herself a secret technique. Ayane quickly found Podia, who was collecting ore in the mine. This is a rough job. If it were other cosmic beings with combat power comparable to him, they would inevitably drive those weak ethnic groups to do these tiring tasks for them. However, this is different. Even Podia, who has a combat power of over 1,000, must personally do these tasks. What a simple nation this should be. Ayaka sighed. He is so powerful that he can dominate other planets, yet he is still working hard here. Seeing Ayane coming over, Podia stopped her work and jumped out of the mine. He expressed his intention to him, and Podia suddenly realized that he almost forgot about it. He patted his head, smiled, and took Ayane to an open place, then began teaching her the secret of language. The study of the secrets of the planet Yadrat is very cumbersome, involving various fields. For example, the language secrets that Ayaka is currently learning are the simplest, but they also involve complex things such as humanities, Jing theology, ideology, and chaotic algorithms. Learning them has made Ayaka dizzy, and she admires the predecessors who created these masterpieces of Yadrat. After continuous explanations and her own diligent exploration by Podia, it took her a full 3 months to learn this secret technique. After learning it, Ayaka couldn't help but exclaim that this is indeed a very practical skill. At least in the future, there will be no barriers to communication with the Namike people. As long as they speak the language of the Namike people, she can use chaotic calculations to master their linguistics. One day, Ayane was lying on the roof basking in the sun, and during this time her little friend was living very leisurely. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside her. Ayane, Elder wants to see you, the other person said straightforwardly, as he was the guardian of Elder. The Yadrat people, like the Namike people, are governed by an elder style, with the Grand Elder representing the highest authority. That Elder Ayayo had seen it when she first arrived at the planet Yadrat, and was a chubby old man. I don't know what the Elder wants to see me for. Ayane thought to herself as she followed the guard into the main hall where the Elder lived. After waiting in the hall for a few minutes, the Elder came out with a yellowed book in his hand, followed by 7 or 8 elders, each of whom held high positions of power. Unexpectedly, they all appeared today. A female Elder Shing stepped forward and touched Ayane's head. In a few months' time on the planet Yadrat, I should have gained a better understanding of this planet. Ayane nodded. The Yadrat people are a peaceful people, which is very rare in the universe. Although their combat power is not top-notch, their intelligence is definitely the number one in the universe. The female elder Xing continued, "We have created countless secrets, which is just the pursuit of our family, but we are unwilling to intervene in the struggles of the universe. You saved Podia, and we are willing to be friends with you. The saints are a fighting people, but I can see that you are different from other saints." Ayane didn't know what the elders meant to her by saying these words. They wouldn't have noticed her unusual physical traits, and she couldn't help but feel a little flustered at the thought. However, she thought too much and the Yadrat people did not see her physique. The elder looked at Ayane and said seriously, "You have a powerful potential far beyond that of an ordinary Saiyan. Perhaps you will become a legendary Super Saiyan. Our Yadrat tribe has a secret technique that can predict the future. We predict that one day the universe will be shrouded in a dark force, and you may be able to resolve that crisis." Ayaka understood that the crisis that could affect the entire universe should be the Demon Bureau. In her understanding, the Demon Bureau will be terminated by the Super Saiyan, but it is not her, but Sun Wukong. You have learned the language secret technique, and in order to deal with that crisis, you can choose to learn 2 other secret techniques. The elder handed the yellowed book in his hand to Ayane. This is an explanation about the secret technique of the planet Yadrat. You can choose 2 from them, and we will arrange for someone to teach you. Ayaka was stunned by the sudden news. Is there such a good thing? Joyfully took the book from the elder's hand. I didn't expect the elder to be so generous in letting me choose. Ayane flipped through the books page by page, and there were too many secret techniques recorded on them, and each one was very useful. It was really difficult for her to pick out 2 of them. Can I bring it back to study? These 2 secrets need to be carefully chosen by myself. The elders smiled and nodded, they had no intention of letting Ayane choose now. After all, selecting 2 from such a thick book is still very difficult. Ayane happily hugged the book and planned to leave the main hall. "Wait," an elder called out to Ayane. Ayane stopped her steps and looked at the elder in confusion, unsure if he was calling her for something. "Your tail will cause you unnecessary trouble, should I help you pull it out?" Ayane shook her tail behind her and realized that it might be her only weakness. Although she had undergone a difficult cultivation, this tail was still her weakest point. She had planned to go to Earth and have the Earth's gods pull it out. Since Elder Yadrat was willing to help, it would be even better. The tale of the Saiyan people involves the transformation of the giant ape. In the early stages, the transformation of the giant ape was much stronger than that of the human form, making it an indispensable life-saving tool. However, in the later stages, the effect of the transformation of the giant ape became less prominent, and the tail became a burden. Some of the secret magic abilities of Yadrat are not inferior to those of Namek. Ayane turned around and poked her tail towards the elder who called her. The elder held on to Ayane's tail, and she suddenly felt that her strength had decreased significantly, and her body became weak. This tail is really my weakness. Even after a lot of cultivation, I can withstand the pressure of the deep sea. Why would I feel weak when caught? No wonder Sun Wukong and Vegeta both pulled out their tails later on. The elder clenched Ayane's tail and used her secret technique ability. Ayane felt a numbness in her buttocks as if she had been electrocuted, and then suddenly felt a chill. Her entire tail had already been pulled out. Ayane took her tail and expressed gratitude to the elder before leaving the main hall. After leaving the main hall, Ayane's hand emitted an energy wave that completely destroyed her tail, leaving only a faint smoke in the air. Chapter 10. Learning Secrets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Can that child really save the universe? Asked an elder after Ayaka left. No one answered, and no one could say they could accurately predict the future, but according to the vision seen in the secret technique, it was indeed the Saiyans who saved the universe. I don't know, there is an indescribable smell on Ayaye's body, with a mystery that even I can't see through. Finally, the elder waved his hand and said calmly, whether she is the last one to save the universe or not, she is a friend of us Yadrat people. Ayaka ran to Podia's sister's house holding a book that recorded the secret techniques of Yadrat, and on the way, friendly Yadrat people occasionally greeted her. Soon Ayane returned to her place of residence, gently covering the door and sitting at the table carefully flipping through every secret technique inside. There are nearly 10,000 secret techniques recorded in the book, each with a unique function. On the third page, Ayaka saw the record about instant movement, and then skipped this one to continue looking down. Excluding some useless secrets used in her daily life, she specifically selected those suitable for combat, and then analyzed and compared them one by one, striving to select the most suitable one for herself. Ayane studied tirelessly, even though Podia's sister called for her to eat, she did not respond. Finally, after a night of hard work, she chose 2 secret techniques that she thought were very practical. The first secret technique is called Invisible Eye, which is a very suitable pupil technique for use in battles. When the invisible eye is opened, its eyes will appear light blue, which can greatly enhance combat awareness. It can more naturally grasp the rhythm of battle and play a good auxiliary role in combat. Unvision also has a relatively convenient ability, which is to determine the opponent's combat power. Whether intentionally hidden or not, it can accurately provide the opponent's combat power value. After a series of comparisons, Ayaka believes that the invisible eye is still very practical and can play a good auxiliary role in future battles, much better than energy detectors. Even if her strength is hidden, she cannot hide in the invisible eye. The second secret technique chosen by Ayane is called Boundary Energy, which is an ability suitable for survival in space. Now Ayane's combat effectiveness and physical strength are steadily improving, but her dependence on oxygen cannot be overcome. Entering outer space or the oxygen-deficient environment in the deep sea can cause fatal damage to her. Although Ayane has an immortal body, she cannot survive in space. If an enemy launches an attack on her in space, she can only stare blankly. Jianeng can help her break free from the constraints of oxygen. After entering outer space, she can absorb free energy from the universe, not only allowing her to survive in space, but also providing her with additional energy supply. It is perfect for fighting against extraterrestrial beings. After finalizing these 2 secret techniques, Ayane rushed non-stop towards the Elder's Hall. The guards in the main hall did not stop Ayane's arrival, clearly knowing her purpose. The elders saw Ayane and asked, "Child, have you already chosen it?" Ayane nodded and told the elders the 2 secret techniques she had chosen. After hearing this, the elder couldn't help but smile and praise, saying, "These 2 secret arts are very good, but the difficulty of cultivation is very high. Even within our Yadrat tribe, there are very few people who know these 2 secret arts." Turning his head and giving orders to the officials beside him, the elder smiled and said, "I will arrange for Pamikuka to teach you. In the future, you will learn from him. Pamikuka is one of the few powerful warriors in our planet of Yadrat, and we can rest assured that he will teach you." Several elders laughed one after another. In no time, a strong middle-aged man walked in, dressed in a unique attire of Yadrat, but with a slight difference. It was a combat suit. There are 2 scars on his face, and he is Pamikuka. Pamikuka first greeted the elders and then looked at Ayane. "Is this little girl going to learn secret techniques?" "Yes, her name is Ayane and she is a friend of our Yadrat tribe. You should teach her well." Pamikuka nodded and said kindly to Ayane, "Since that's the case, the little girl will follow me from now on." He said with a smile that he thought was relatively friendly, but that smile, combined with the 2 scars on his face, appeared very fierce. "Hello." Ayane quickly bowed back. Although Pamikuka's smile looked very terrifying, she could see that Pamikuka was friendly to her, and the people of the Yadrat Star were basically very easy to get along with. Leaving the main hall, Ayaka followed Pamikuka to a specialized practice room, where various exercise tools were placed, and many Ayaka had no apparent purpose. Pamikuka explained in detail the purpose of these tools to her and then began teaching. The first thing to learn is, not looking at the eyes. Although Pamikuka explained it in great detail, she still listened to Ayane in a daze. This is truly a profound secret technique within the Yadrat tribe, and its principles are much more complex than the language secrets she has learned before. The two are completely different and incomparable. After Pamikuka's constant demonstration and explanation, Ayane gradually understood the mystery of the unseen, but she had only just started. Once, Ayaka mischievously took out her energy detector to probe Pamikuka, wanting to know his combat power. Unexpectedly, when the value of the detector reached 12,000, it exploded with a loud bang. After all, it is an old-fashioned detector, and the upper limit of the energy that can be measured is not too high. But from then on, Ayaka worked even harder to study. This Pamikuka is a warrior with a combat power of over 10,000, and his guidance has been very helpful to him. Ayane worked hard to learn from Pamikuka, occasionally raising her own questions, and Pamikuka carefully answered her questions. With the rapid passage of time, Ayaka's strength improved rapidly under the guidance of Pamikuka. Finally, after studying for nearly a year, Ayaka learned invisible. At the first moment when she learned not to look at the eyes, Ayane directed it towards Pamikuka. Her eyes slowly emitted a faint blue glow, which is a characteristic of the unopened eye. Ayane suddenly felt as if her brain had been cleared, feeling a bit cool, and her mind became particularly clear. A string of numbers appeared before Ayane's eyes, 34,000. Unexpectedly, Pamikuka has a combat power of 34,000, which is 16,000 higher than when Vegeta attacked Earth. Then observe oneself with the naked eye. 1850 Ayane was stunned, not expecting that her combat power had improved so much in just 1 year. Suddenly, she became happy again. Indeed, the guidance of a strong person had a different effect. She was very eager to learn Jinning, and didn't know how much her strength would improve by then. Pamikuka knew that Ayane was very happy now and did not interrupt her interest. After more than a year of getting along, he knew the little girl in front of him very well. She was a serious, hard-working, and very lovely child. After excitement, Ayane happily urged Pamikuka to quickly teach herself world skills. She is already eager to learn, and not seeing the eye is a secret skill that belongs to the auxiliary category, which can play a good additional role in battles. And the realm energy is a cultivation and survival secret, which not only allows oneself to survive in the universe, but also provides additional energy support for oneself. If one enters the universe to absorb cosmic energy, their strength will definitely grow faster. Ayane knew that with her current strength, she would definitely be invincible on Earth. Even if she looked at the entire universe, she could compete with numerous planets. But these are far from enough. It should be noted that once the Dragon Ball steps out of the Earth chapter, the increase in its power system is simply not something that humans can do. Is it really impressive that there are several tens or hundreds of increases in combat power ahead? But later on, it became even more powerful, with an increase of tens of thousands. In the middle and later stages, it becomes too abnormal, with combat effectiveness skyrocketing like a desperate attempt, as if it can be increased for no reason. At that time, the battle was simply wasteful. In Ayane's eyes, it was too wasteful, and her eyes were stinging. Ayane is a person full of crisis, and without foresight, there must be immediate worries. She has only just started. It's just a little faster, why bother? When we reach several million, even hundreds of millions of combat effectiveness in the future, we will also follow their example and squander our resources in a grand manner. Be a strong fighter.